Welcome to The Chaos Antidote, a leadership podcast hosted by Jason E. Neal, author of Accidentally Aligned: How Leaders Create Value in Chaos. Through these episodes, we will be exploring real-world problems and applying solutions that reduce your chaos and help you to become accidentally aligned. Hello, everyone. This is Jason E. Neal, and we're on the Chaos Antidote Today podcast. And this is my book, Accidentally Aligned: How Leaders Create Value in Chaos. This is available on Audible. It's available on Kindle, paperback, hard copy. Just a great handbook if you have questions, if you're trying to go through and make transformation from a lot of years of experience and failure on some things that might help you on your journey. So today I'm going to tackle a topic that's frustrating some leaders when I talk about in every industry. Why lean principles seem to thrive in the factory, but not in offices. When we're talking about HR, finance, other transactional processes, I get this feedback a lot. It feels like we're doing two different things. There are very much two different ideas, and we don't know how to navigate it, right? So here's what we're going to do in this episode. We're going to explore how renaming lean concepts creates confusion. When we do this, when we call things different things in different industries, we have now created the need for a Rosetta Stone. So people have to have some translation device so that they can figure out what we're talking about. We're going to talk about some of the wisdom of Shigeo Shingo, and we're going to talk about some uncomfortable truths about respect for people and push towards root cause alignment. So let's dive in. To set the foundation, let's talk about one of the giants of lean thinking, Shigeo Shingo, right? Shingo was a Japanese industrial engineer who worked extensively with Toyota, contributed to the Toyota production system through innovations like SMED, single-minute exchange of die, Poka-yoke, mistake proofing, zero quality control, right? A lot of major contributors there. He wrote several books that were translated into English and then several that weren't. Just an absolute phenomenal set of resources. What you read when you read Shigeo Shingo's writings are that he saw processes as fundamentally similar, whether they involve physical parts or information. So, for example, if I go to the shop floor, and I've been doing this, I have 16 years of direct transformation experience in supply chain. So, right on the shop floor, working with folks there. But here's what I find: if I go to a machine and something's down or it's not working, and I say, "Hey, I'd like to observe the process." Here's what I see. I see things I can touch. There will be parts, there will be machines, there will be people that are there, and I can see that. Those are foundational ideas. It's something that's physical, right? I can perceive it with my senses. But what I will also find is a whole lot of things that I cannot perceive with my senses. So waiting, frustration, unclear direction, or words that have been said to direct in different directions that go against the standard, invisible pressures from the system, right? It's all these things. So when I think about these things that I can perceive with my senses, physical things, and then there's these abstract ideas that there's something far deeper that's going on there. They're both present in operations. And that's why when I jump back and forth between operations and transactional, and it's hard for me to accept that they're that much different because I see them both in both places. Now, I can tell you from my experience, most of the biggest changes that I have made have been the transactional changes. It's those pieces that are abstract. It's not actually the physical thing. We've improved a lot of processes in my career, a lot of processes, and made them really better. But really, it's those invisible abstract things that have made the system stronger. And so when you think about this, and you have these real processes, and you start to go into a transactional realm like engineering or finance or HR, expect to hear these differences because it's hard to visualize an abstract thing. It's hard to see that. Picasso was met with a gentleman one time, and the gentleman asked him a question, and he said, I have a question. Why do you make these paintings that don't look like the thing that you're painting? And Picasso was kind of confused by this, and he said, what do you mean? And he said, well, for example, like if I asked you to paint my wife, it wouldn't look anything like my wife. And he said, "Do you have a picture of your wife? Can I see it?" And the man pulled out a picture of his wife, and he said, "Yeah, here, this is my wife." And he said, "No," he said, "this is a small, flat, square representation of your wife." And it's really important to realize because a lot of the times the things that we see as physical and then we'll see other things that are abstract, they're actually both abstract because the picture of his wife wasn't his wife any more than the jumbled image of paint strokes was his wife. And that's where I think we get a lot of confusion mixed up. There are things that are there that are physically there, and then there are things that represent things that are there, right? And it's those two pieces that work together to make the system. So here's what we do. We want to eliminate waste, we want to ensure flow, and we want to build quality at the source. That is no small thing to go after. We know that when we deploy lean and we begin to set up operations, that we hide a lot of problems in inventory and overproduction, whether it's excessive parts on a shelf, excess paperwork, or people in a queue, right? And when we look at concrete action over abstract theory, how do we apply this theory and how do we have real action to make changes? We want to go to the Gemba, the actual place, and observe how do you do that in a transactional place? How do you do that with a process that takes 300 days versus a small manufacturing process that might have a tact of 4 minutes? And this is confusing for people, right? It's very confusing because they're like, well, I see how you do that in manufacturing. I don't see how you do that in transactional. And Shigeo Shingo's ideas weren't limited to the factory floor. He definitely influenced broader operational excellence, showing that the same waste elimination logic works everywhere. I have also seen this to be true. So here's where it gets practical and painful. Okay. In manufacturing, we call excess stuff inventory. It's visible, it's measurable. We can attack it with just-in-time and pull systems because it ties up capital, it hides defects, and it slows flow. You can see it. I can go there and I can see things getting stuck and getting jammed. You will find that Shigeo Shingo calls inventory an absolute evil. Now, in his book, Non-Stock or No Stock Production, I've been reading that book again for a review, and one of the things that he says, which I think is just wonderful, he says, we do call inventory a necessary evil, but I do find that there's a lot more emphasis on the necessary and a lot less emphasis on the evil. And this is what he pushes towards and leads us towards is this idea that inventory is evil. So we see that in manufacturing. I can say, yeah, that's evil. We got to get rid of that. It's tying up money. It's running us into the ground. Now, if I move that to a process like human resources, and I have a group of people, I need to hire 5 candidates, and I hold 10,000 in queue, and I say these are candidates. They're kind of warm. We're going to keep them warm. We're going to hire these people, and we need to hire 100, but we need 10,000 or whatever the number is. And here's what I find when we move into that transactional realm. We'll call it different things. Like we might call it a talent pipeline, or we might call it bench strength or candidate pool, right? In project management, we might call it work in process or a backlog, right? We rebrand it to sound more professional or humane. But what I really want to push at is, does that help? Does that help? And this is where in my 25 years of doing this, I've learned this. And we're trying to build a system in which manufacturing works with project management and project management works with HR and HR works with finance. But we all speak different languages. So when I'm a manufacturing leader and I come to finance and I say, hey, this is inventory. Well, no, that's not really inventory, right? Or if I say, hey, this is inventory HR, they're like, well, that's not really inventory. We don't call that inventory. And what we have is we have this broken misalignment. And when you think about the functional backbone of a business, this manufacturing, this production, or as Shingo breaks it out into processes and operations, right? When we have this system, that's where our revenue and our cost is coming from. And then you have these support systems that are built around that to help us manage this system. but the support systems don't speak the language of the revenue generators or the cost units, right? So when we think about this, that's a huge misalignment. And within our own organizations, within our own silos, we'll say, yeah, but it works here and that's what people understand. So we need to keep doing that. But the problem is when you begin to bring that system together, now we're talking about enterprise transformation, right? So I'm not talking about a single unit. I was at first. I'm saying finance transformation, manufacturing transformation, HR transformation. Now I'm talking about enterprise transformation. When you begin to bring that enterprise together and you have people that are talking all kinds of different languages, you're going to have to create a translating unit, or which I call a Rosetta Stone, to help people understand when I say talent pipeline, I mean inventory. When I say backlog, I mean inventory. When I say work in process, I mean inventory. But it confuses people. And I call this a systemic paralysis. That's what I call this. I've seen this so many times, and we'll go to plug in, and it's like, you know, one group is speaking one language, one group speaking another language, and they're both saying the same thing, but because of the culture, and remember those abstract ideas, because of the cultures, we won't allow each other to talk the same way, and teams talk past each other. They miss each other. You're talking about really great people, but improvements in one area don't reinforce the other. The whole organization moves slower. It's like a machine with misaligned gears, if you want to put it into some terminology from manufacturing. So here's what we need. This is what I'll find is a common objection. We can't call people inventory. That's disrespectful. Fair point on language. Agreed. People are not machines. They're not, no one wants to feel like a part sitting on a shelf. Neither do I, right? We're people. But let's dig deeper, as Shingo would, with his relentless whys. So start asking why, start interrogating the process. And here's my questions. If we're so concerned about terminology, then why don't we care about holding 10,000 people in limbo? Why would we tolerate that? And you'll hear me say this, it's in my book, you'll hear me say this all the time. Culture is whatever the most powerful people in an organization are willing to tolerate. So if the reason we would not call a talent pipeline or work in process in engineering or a backlog in engineering, if the reason we wouldn't call those things inventory is because of respect for people, then why do we miss the respect for people principle and the fact that we're holding 10,000 people in limbo of endless interviews, bloated talent pipeline, knowing that most of these people will never be hired, right? That is disrespectful. We're missing disrespect for people, and it masks it. And I see this. Businesses will say, well, we must call it something else because it's disrespectful to call it inventory. But we're totally fine with disrespecting people and holding them in these massive queues. That's fine with us. We actually have, and what I find is the one is a deflection mechanism from the other. Because we call it this and because we manage it this and because we've anchored in a respect for people, we now no longer have to deal with the disrespect that we're doing to people. Why? Because we know inventory is evil, and we can talk that all day long. But is a talent pipeline evil? Is it? Show me the book that says a talent pipeline is evil, right? And we begin to distance ourselves from the thing that it is and from the teaching that we know. And this is a huge lost productivity. It's a massive opportunity for cost to be introduced to our business because we're now deflecting and using the principles of respect for people to deflect. So true respect for people, which is a core Toyota and Shingo principle. It means designing systems that don't have waste and don't waste human potential. That's huge, right? So it means clear, honest processes with quick feedback loops. I call this a learning machine. Predictable flow. Dignity in work, not polite euphemisms that mask inefficiency. And this is maturity. When we start maturing in our lean enterprises and we start having the right conversations and we start moving in the right directions, this is what we'll find. We can hold people in uncertainty. And then we can pat ourselves on the back and say, well, we have human-centered language, and this is good, but it's not good. It's not good. We need to look at the system as a whole and ask ourselves, what is true respect for people? What is the respectful thing that we were trying to learn? What's the root cause? Misaligned systems that treat manufacturing and transactional worlds as fundamentally different instead of variations on the same theme. What is that theme? Value creation through flow. That's what we're trying to do, right? And these are the ideas that I'm trying to bring today. These are the conversations that I want to have. So what's the fix? How do we do this? Well, build your Rosetta Stone if you want to. That's fine, but you're going to have to transcend it, right? You're as we begin to grow and as we begin to bring these units together. Maybe you have a Rosetta Stone as you deploy in the silo. I've seen that, and I'm not saying we shouldn't do that, but we should be pushing towards the true north, the star that's in the sky that's guiding our ship, right? Where are we going? When we start to build our value stream maps, pull transactional and operational together. Pull manufacturing in when you do your transactional value stream maps. Why? Because you're going to have interesting conversations. It's going to force the customers to be in the room with their next operation as a customer or their supplier or all the different people that they're going to be engaged with. They're going to ask questions. Why did you call it that? Why do you call my process that? Why do you see it that way? Right? And when we create that respectful culture where people can talk and they can learn from each other, standardize language where it matters. You're not going to be able to standardize it everywhere. The teams won't allow it. You'll get pushback. I see this all the time. But keep core lean terms consistent. Waste, flow, pull, tact, right? Explain analogies clearly. And you'll see this. I try to do this a lot when I run into a principle and I'm having trouble in communicating or people don't want to accept it. I try to bring it into a real life principle and say, well, what would that look like in the real world? How can I show you what that looks? Because we can get hung on words all day long, and people get scared of words. They get offended by words, but like, let me just show you what that looks like in the real world, and then let me ask you through kata, how might you apply that where you are, right? Train leaders to translate on the fly. Wow, that's huge. Where we have leaders and they're hearing this and are we if let's say we can't bring the masses with us. Let's say we can't bring everybody with us and they're not willing to accept that yet. Do our leaders know, hey, we're speaking different language in these 5 different silos and everybody's calling this a different thing. So when you hear this come up and you're doing these value stream map events, I want to teach you what this means so you can help bring that together and have those conversations. Now we're building leadership. When we look at focusing on principles over labels, we want to emphasize on principles like focus on process, respect every individual, not just the people in our organization, but the people that are sitting in the queue, the people that are on the shop floor, the people that are designing new process. We want to create a constancy of purpose. It's huge. It's our vision statement, right? Why are we here? Why are we doing this? Why is this important? Experiment and align. Pilot cross-functional improvements. Measure end-to-end flow, not just departmental metrics. We want to look at the entire system. And when we start to do this, you'll start getting these fast feedback, clear signals, and then we can get respect through predictability. So it's a huge transformation. When systems align, magic happens. Faster throughput, better quality, engaged people, and real respect thrown through results. And this is what we're after, right? It's not that one group is right, one group is wrong. I have seen this. If we're building greenfield and everything's blank and there's nothing there, then sure, go lay it out and use one common language. But as you engage, especially in these brownfield environments where the grass is dead and there's just dirt everywhere and we're trying to grow new green grass, it's really hard. And you have to be delicate in the way that we interact it. So maybe you do build the silo first and create the Rosetta Stone. But we want to push towards as we're bringing those silos up, how do we begin to interconnect that system? How do we begin to create that value stream, a stream of value that flows back from customer demand and feeds our entire process, creates our process and changes our system, right? That's what we want. We want to build organizations where concrete manufacturing and abstract transactional processes speak the same language of excellence. No more paralysis, just flow. So here's my question. What do you think? Have you seen the renaming trap in your world? I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'd love to hear your feedback. It's real. It's real. And that's what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about things that other people aren't talking about. We're here to bring ideas that are new to the operations world, to answer hard questions. Check me out. Follow me on LinkedIn. Follow me on visit me on jasoneneal.com. Pick up my book. It's available on Amazon. It's available on Audible. This Audible is really nice. A lot of operational folks, they will tell me, or transactional folks that are, have commutes. I listen to your book when I'm going for a walk, or I'm driving in the car. I have a long commute, and I can just let it play, and I can listen and think and reflect on these thoughts and ideas. Check out the podcast. It's available, iHeartRadio, Apple, pretty much anywhere you can find podcasts. It's out there, and then my YouTube channel as well. Let's make tomorrow better than today. Thanks for tuning in.